We're here with Imam Warith Kadeem Muhammad, the leader and president of the American Muslim Mission. And we thank Imam Muhammad for granting us the opportunity to interview. Imam Muhammad, with the transformation of the American Muslim Mission from the Nation of Islam, some factions within the African American community express feelings that the American Muslim Mission has lost some of its relevance with regards to the freedom movement of the African American people. Would you care to comment on that? Is there any truth to that statement at all?
I see reasons for some of the outer community, especially African Americans, to have concern because the community was very vocal community under Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and its promotions activities was such that it always kept some activities going on out in the streets, that is, with the Bilalian Muhammad Speaks then. Muhammad Speaks newspaper sellers and fishing. We call them fishing programs where people were going out to bring people in. So people in the street, African American people in the street, were constantly being approached by members of the Nation of Islam to come and see what the Nation of Islam offered to black people in America, or if it wasn't that, there was some news of us because of our strong visibility at that time. Since my leadership, we have been somewhat a low-key, low-profile organization, but that's quite deceiving. We have not retreated or backstepped from anything that was positive and good for us, and we believe that we are still in the process as a people. We are still in the process of building or establishing identity. We were separated from African identity. And we believe that our leaders from the earliest ones, Frederick Douglass, even before Frederick Douglass, that all of them were about the job of establishing dignified human identity, respectable identity for the Bilalian African American people. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad was about that too, but his, as you know, his philosophy was quite different. So it gave him a kind of racist image. Many of the his critics in the African American leadership used to try to frighten the system, the establishment, by telling them that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad represented the reverse of the KKK, you know, which wasn't true at all. But that was somewhat justified too by people who had not looked on the inside of the Nation of Islam. We have inherited from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's leadership a commitment to continue that movement or that process for dignifying the whole people and establishing a really definitive identity for our lot.
I'd like to ask you, Brother Imam, do you feel that your leadership has enhanced or diminished the economic program of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that he started with the Nation of Islam?
That was a temporary period. That was a period of readjustment, simply because of great change in policy. The policy, I would say, the practice under Honorable Elijah Muhammad for increasing business growth in the African American people was one that was designed to get the most out of the person as soon as possible. It was not done with respect for the Islamic ethics. Therefore, when I came in, being a person who was more, I would say, more morally orientated than materially orientated, I began to question some of the policies and practices in the light of what is ethics in Islam. And when I did that, I had to then instruct the staff to change the quotas of newspapers, to change the contribution quotas, dues, yes, and also to stop pressure tactics, stop the use or implementation of pressure tactics to get increased contributions.
So in essence, then you, with your leadership, you have legitimized the economic program of the Nation of Islam at that time.
In the light of what our religion requires of us, yes, that is an accurate statement. And in changing the policy, that was we expected that there would be a period of economic difficulty, or financial difficulty for us, because most of the real work, real effort, and results that we were realizing came by the old program, you see, and the new program then caused us to have a sudden slowdown, almost a stoppage of cash, dollars, flow of cash, you see. That created a real problem. But at the same time, we were trying to do our best to motivate the community into the kind of thinking and attitudes, business attitudes, that Muslims should have. And that is that any Muslim with an interest in business is free to go into business, and he should get the support of his brothers and sisters in his community if he is a good businessman. So we encourage individual business, the decentralizing of business, and motivating individuals to go into business and to think big, think national, and to organize, to go into big corporations and etc. So that the same business reputation that we had under a centralized kind of program would be realized, and even be realized more so under a decentralized program where individuals are encouraged to go into business and with the support of their brothers and sisters.
Thank you. Imam Muhammad, it has been stated by numerous sources that you were especially prepared for the leadership role that you now assume. If this is so, would you explain how?
I believe that I am first a product of a certain kind of fear that was put into me as a baby, you know, fear of God. We called Allah in the person of Prophet Muhammad at that time, you know, it wasn't quite like what it should be. But even with the incorrect theology based on what Quran says, there was a great sincerity. There was a pure faith, so to speak, you know. And I believe strongly in God, in obeying God. And I believe that if I did that, I had nothing to worry about. God would take care of me, you see. And I believe that if I didn't do that, then I was throwing myself to just the wild, just to anything, to destruction. So that I inherited from my home life. My mother instilling in me the teachings of my father. Something else I inherited that worked so well and so much in my favor was a kind of mystic air, you know. The teacher of my father, his name is W.F. Muhammad, he's called, but another common name that he gave us of himself is W.D. Farad. And when I was born, they tell me that this mystic teacher wrote my name in chalk. Before I was born, pardon me, he wrote my name in chalk on the door of my father's house, you know, in one of the doors in the house. And all of them wondered why he wrote my name, that name so large on the door. So as it became obvious that my mother was pregnant and everything, so they began to suspect that was a name maybe he intended for the new baby. And when I was born, he sent a telegram to my mother, who was in Detroit, where I was born. He was here at that time in Chicago. was in the early 30s. And my father also was here with him, working to build a mission here in Chicago. So when my mother notified them of the baby had been born, a boy, then he sent a telegram back, dismissed it. It was W.F. Muhammad or W.D. Farrar. He sends a telegram saying, name the new arrival, call me the new arrival, name the new arrival, W.D. Wallace D. Muhammad. And later, I was told that my mother said that he named me after himself. And she would always stress that anytime she thought I was kind of taken to the fellas out in the street, you know, she'd say, well, people in boys out in the street might be taking him out of this role that he's destined for. So I imagine that's what she was saying in her mind. And then she would remind me, she said, you're not like other boys. She would tell me that, you know, say, you're not like other boys. And she said, my Savior told me to take good care of you. She said, you know you wear his name? That's what she would tell me, you know. So I guess that did have a way of influencing me to come into the ministry of the Nation of Islam. But the thing that really kicked it off was my friend, Leroy, the boy who knows most of my sins because we grew up together, you know. He said, I'm going up to talk tonight. It was a free night. Wednesday night, every Wednesday night was free night for the brothers to get up and talk if they wanted to aspire for ministry. So Leroy said, I'm going to get up to talk tonight. He said, why don't you get up? So I didn't say nothing. I didn't reply. And at that time, he was on the spot. He had already indicated that he wanted to get up. So he just went on up. And he got on up and he spoke. He returned to his seat after he made his short talk. And he looked at me as if he was bragging. And that made me get up. So I raised my hand and I went up. And I went up and I gave my talk that Wednesday night. And I'm telling you, when I got up there and turned around and faced the audience, I was almost paralyzed with fear. Yeah, I was very much stage fright. I was paralyzed almost with fear. And I began to try to go through the formal procedure, you know, that they would go through, the common language that the ministers would use, you know. And I was looking at the people, and I began to think of the people. And I forgot myself. I forgot the fear and everything. From then on, I've been a minister. From that night on, I've been minister.
Was there any specific religious training? You understand that you speak and understand the Arabic language. Is there any?
Yes. Well, at that time, we had, when I was in school, the high school, we had a very good teacher here who from Jerusalem. My father had hired him to teach here in Chicago. He taught Arabic language. He taught Arabic language, science, and some business math. His name Jamil Diab from Jerusalem. I was a student under him. My brother Akbar was a student under him, who progressed so wonderfully. He went from here straight to Azhar, where they don't provide any courses in English, and he was able to continue his studies there at Azhar, and he studied there for many years. Daniel Kareem,
Yes.
Imam Daniel Kareem, perhaps you met him.
Yes.
He's the one who gives that van so beautifully.
Yes.
He excelled all of us in that particular chanting. They called chanting of Quran. The professor said Daniel was best in the chanting of the Quran. He got a beautiful voice. And Akbar was best overall. I was best in translation and translating from one language to another language. But I would say I didn't get any special training because I know we're talking now to a broad audience.
Yeah.
If we're talking to the Nation of Islam, I would say I did get special training. But to the broad audience, I think it would be kind of misguiding them to say that I received special training. A special training, I would believe, would be taken to mean that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave me some special attention himself, or that I was sent to special people to get some special. No, not at all. If anybody received special attention, it was Akbar.
I see.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to ask you now, Brother Imam, about our community, the American Muslim Mission, which has undergone many changes, and one of which is the name change. Originally, the community was known as the Lost Found Nation of Islam in America. Then it was changed to the World Community of Al-Islam in the West, and now it is the American Muslim Mission. What is the significance of the name change?
a desire to free ourselves to operate freely and productively in the American society. That's what motivated the changes. The original name identified us too much as a nationalistic, separatist group, and it affected us within too in that way because we were thinking of ourselves as building a separate nation, whereas the term in its Islamic context does not suggest a separate nation as such. It suggests what it suggests is a community of people who live basically one spiritual social life, you know, um, and they are all one community in the sense that they follow the dictates of that religion. The Holy Prophet, peace be on him, he established a government in Medina. It was a government in Medina. However, since him, there have been many governmental centers, many governmental centers, and he himself did not undermine government in his lifetime. So the community, political, think of the Nation of Islam, that term Ummah, nation in English, to mean that we must have a governmental structure separate from other governments is incorrect. The governmental structure of the Islamic community, or Ummah, is seen in the context of the do's and don'ts of our religion. And wherever we are, we have that.
Yes.
Yes.
Brother Imam, would you please outline for us some of the priorities of the American Muslim Mission?
Number one priority for this community is education. We believe, and we base it on Quranic teachings, as well as on our life experiences. That is the total experience of our people here in America. That most of our problems are problems of miseducation, and you're familiar with that term, miseducation and misinformation. Yes, and we feel that we need independent leadership in the field of education. In order to overcome this, we don't think that we can meet with the success that's due us if we depend upon public school system totally for education. We believe that private schools have a way of influencing public school system toward improvement. And we believe that we can benefit from each other. Private schools can benefit from the public school system, and the public school system can benefit from the existence of private schools. And we strongly believe that the black colleges, such as Morehouse College and all of these others, that they represent a response to that need in us as a people to establish leadership in the field of education. Dr. Benjamin Mays is on record for recently, within the last year, I believe, stressing before a dignified audience the need for Bilalians to continue to serve the need for education in the African American people. I'm a firm believer in that. You know, the Nation of Islam took that position too, that the oppressor can't cure or heal the person that he has made sick, you know. So the Nation of Islam took that position, and I still go along with that idea. I think that there's a lot of internal problems that we have, and not only problems, but there are a lot of internal tools for production that we have that can best be brought out under our own attention.
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you, in light of that, in relation to that, one of the hottest racial issues is the busing issue. And what is your position on solving the busing issue as a means of solving the problem of inferior education amongst the African American people?
Yeah, I take a position with, I believe, majority that busing in itself is no solution. Um, and I think that it has more drawbacks than it has uh, well, success or promises of success. Uh, I wouldn't, personally, I wouldn't like having my young children bust out of a neighborhood or out of a community that I was pleased with into one that I was not pleased with, you know, even if it meant maybe better education facilities, better school facilities. I wouldn't favor. I wouldn't be. I wouldn't favor that because sometimes environment can be of such a negative effect on the person that the concrete are the facilities of the school for better education would be nullified by the adverse effect of that environment on that person. So many cases that I've heard aired on the television, on the news media, I have sympathized with those persons who didn't want their children bust in there. And then some, I saw that there was no real grounds for them to reject, you know. I think that we have to accept that there will be some need for busing children and that we shouldn't be so rigid in our position that we turn out to be just fanatically against all busing, you know. That wouldn't be good. But at the same time, I think some of this opposition is healthy for this issue because what it does, it forces the government and it forces the local administrators to do more to find other ways of improving education, improving conditions in the schools for those who are deprived or who are shortchanged.
Back to the priorities of the American Muslim Mission, and the main priority being education. We have read recently that the American Muslim Mission has purchased a 40-acre site in North Carolina, and which would be a boarding high school as well as a teacher college. And we see that you're well on the way to fulfilling that number one priority of education.
Yes, well, we have some good people who have really uh, raised my hopes and expectations because of their hard and continuous labor here in recent months to see that those objectives become realities for us. Uh, I don't like to praise certain people, you know, who don't want praise. And the one I'm going to say is Imam Hamidullah, who's the imam here. He has really been instrumental in getting our application down to Springfield, in following up on our visit to Greenboro, North Carolina, the Palmer Institute facilities there, and I'm really proud of our progress so far. Our contributions are coming in, and we wish that they would come in a little faster, but I think everything's okay.
I'd like to ask you at this time, Brother Imam, what would you say has been the most significant accomplishment of the community under your leadership, and how can this benefit the broader community?
Yes, the most significant accomplishment is the saving of the faith of the people. Many times when people are told what they were believing in is wrong, they then give up hope in following anything, you know. But with this community, a great majority, the few that stepped aside and say, no, I don't want to be a part of it, they're such few until really I don't think they should be counted, you know. The great majority agreed that we should continue to be Muslims, but not in the old um, uh, the Christian bed, you know, that we were once in, that said everybody had to weigh 150 pounds, you know, no matter what your height was, you know. So they agreed that we should come to what is basically our religion, and the Quran was authority for that, and that we should accept that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a human being, and we should rate him as a human being and not as a supernatural being, mystery. He was no mystery. We should rate him as a human being, and we should judge him also on the basis of what is in the Quran. They accepted that. To me, that was a miracle for this community, and considering the great numbers that went along with that and continue to live good lives, God-fearing life, and their faith now is being increased. It was mere change in theology and terminology of theology, and their faith now is continuing to grow and continuing to increase, and they're becoming better and better people while having made a bow face, so to speak, from a shrine that they used to worship.
I'd like to ask you now, Brother Imam, what is the relationship of the American Muslim Mission with the Muslims abroad?
Our relation is this. We accept that Muslims all over the world are one community. And we encourage the building of brotherly sentiments between ourselves and all other Muslims. But we stress building this distinction, this ethnic distinction that we want, because our religion is not one that seek to bring about change in a people through the process of acculturation, where the whole visible life of the people has been erased for another life. That's not required in our religion. In fact, our religion is against that. All over the world where you find the message of Islam has gone, the people have been left with the roots, with I would say the pattern of their culture. The pattern of their culture was left intact. Only those developments in their culture that was unintelligent, immoral, affront to the dignity of the person, only those things were discarded and the people were left. So you go to Ghana, you find a man who looks like a man from Ghana. He said, I'm a Muslim. He said, Assalamu alaikum. But he looked like he's from Ghana. And when he talks and walks with his friends, you can tell him his personality is one of his own people, you see. And that's what we want to preserve for our people. Too many of us have thought that once we become Muslims, we have to talk like Arabs, we have to look like Arabs, we have to be Arabs. That's wrong.
As the leader of the American Muslim Mission, is there any official relationship that you have with the Muslims abroad, and in particular, the Muslims in the Middle East?
We do have relationships, yes, we do. We have affiliations with two universities now, correspondence with two universities, and with plans to have affiliation with those two universities in Saudi Arabia, King Faisal University and Mohammed bin Saud University in Saudi Arabia. There's also a third one we intend to have affiliate, some kind of association with in Medina. There are others too outside of Saudi Arabia that we are thinking about, in Pakistan and in Africa. We have communications, good lines of communications with one of the biggest and perhaps one of the most reputable, respected organizations of Muslims in the world. It's a world body called Rabata, Muslim World League. I am in direct communication with their national leader, who's Sheikh Harkan in Saudi Arabia. We have had, and still I think have, association, that is a communication with Muslim Student Association, also big national, international group of Muslim students who are normally in residence, and they return to their homes. We don't encourage a strong affiliation with such bodies, simply because we are not a mission in that sense. We don't have Arab problems as our priority. All right. We don't have political, nationalistic issues as our priority. But you will find most of these organizations, they have formed as a result of our problems and nationalistic problems, you see, where we have formed quite differently. We form as a result of a desire to survive and free ourselves from social misguidance, you see. So we have a social reform movement more so than a issue program movement. See, issues don't decide our course. Issues don't decide our course. Issues have not formed us. What decide our course is our personal lives, And if that can be made the issue, then that is the one issue that decides our course. What the course that we take in life as a movement or as a group of people. So we don't encourage strong ties with such groups, only in the general interest of all Muslims. Only in the general interest of all Muslims. I can't say what the future will bring. In the future, there might be persons in our community who may lend their support and may dedicate their time and their life to dealing with the issues of political crisis in the Islamic world, or need for education in the Islamic world. But right now, I think how we can best serve the general community of Muslims throughout the world is by showing how this religion has brought about almost complete change in our lives and have given us the courage to present ourselves as a voice of moral leadership in the world, and a voice of human justice, human dignity, human justice, and a kind of, I would say, liberating force for the dignity of man and also woman. You know, I think we should be appreciated in that light, and I think we would be really stepping down to start giving ourselves to political issues that would eventually typeset us and give us a new face, a new image in the world. You know, I think the best one we can have is the one we have.
Yes.
And if I know some issues that I could jump on right now. You know, but I don't think they could offer me as much dignity and as much hope for my own good future as what we're doing right now.
I'd like to move briefly to the domestic scene, and at one time, this community was an antagonist of the American government. And I'd like to know now, what kind of reception has your leadership in the growing Muslim community received from the American government?
We have received more and more recognition from persons in the local government and also the national government. I think we should have even more, but really, I didn't expect that we would get as much good, I would say, good response from people in government as we have received. It's not uncommon or surprising for us to receive invitation from White House or State Department or the mayor's office, the governor's office, or from some outstanding person in our local government, chief of police, captain of the police department, or in the human relations department of the police department. So we
widely accepted.
yes, we accept it, and I think that alone is enough for us to really believe that local and national government approves and really applaud the changes that have taken place.
You have been internationally regarded as, or referred to as the Mujaddid, which I understand to mean reviver of religion. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does this merely mean the reviver of the Muslim faith, or does it have a broader meaning?
Yes. When I use the term mujaddid, I was using it really in a kind of a loose, a general sense, because the idea of mujaddid that some people in the Islamic world subscribe to, perhaps I wouldn't even subscribe to it. You see, so I was using it in the general, very loose and general sense, meaning a person who has the insight, the vision to bring about changes in the life of a people belonging to a religion that would advance them in that religion to a position where their own leadership would be established. So reviver to me really means one who has the insight to charge his community, motivate his community to excel in their religion to such degree that they establish their own leadership and are not subordinate. Yeah.
I'd like to ask you now about your push for interfaith cooperation. You have been the initiator and a strong supporter of interfaith unity. You've also addressed churches and synagogues in this effort. Now, I'd like to ask you, Imam Muhammad, what do you hope to accomplish through this, and what do you feel has been accomplished thus far?
I recall as a student in the University of Islam under Al Muhammad reading some books about the Crusades, and I came to really see that the spirit of the Crusades was a thing plaguing our society. My personal experience on a Catholic school playground and other experiences that I've had with certain misinformed Christians just helped to give more substance to that belief I had that the American people couldn't see straight because of crusade spirit in them. When I learned of movements to bring the great religions together in some healthy dialogue, I was so happy to hear that, especially because at that time I was free from the old Nation of Islam's straitjacket limitations, and that is regarding our mixing with other races or with other religions. So I welcomed that, and I told the officials here, I said, yes, I said, let's encourage that. I said, let's see, can we meet with other preachers who are interested in that? So we began to meet with certain local preachers here, and it caught on nationally, and our imams, the ministers and imams now began to encourage that nationally, and as a result of that, we have imams now who sit on prestigious bodies with ministers of Christian religion, the Christian faith. And I know of some who sit with Jews also, with rabbis. And they all sit together, our imams, the Christian preachers, the ministers, and the rabbis all sit together in a healthy dialogue to bring people together to fight the common ills of the society. We encourage that. It's working well. And hope that soon we will have more contact with international groups. The World Conference on Religion Peace, prestigious world body. We support them. We are supporting members of that body. The Council of Churches, Christian Council of Churches. We have correspondence with them. We support their efforts. And I'm sure more and more will come. I think that one way of bringing about a kind of healthy social change in the religious people of the United States is for us who are leaders to come together and show that we are all creatures of one God, and we all are fighting the same kind of evils, and we respect each other and we want to work together. If we can show the common masses of religious people that in the United States, I think we will do a great service, because many of them, I know, because I was one of them, many of them don't like the burden, the crusade burden. They don't like to carry a cross crescent in a war against their fellow man.
Imam Muhammad, you have been tirelessly and moving in and outside of this country, delivering messages to a wide cross-section of people, all races, theologians, inmates, politicians, students, scholars, business people, not to mention your own community. I'd like to know what has been the central theme of your message to such a wide variety of people.
Yes, the central theme has been we are needlessly separated from each other, and we are needlessly at war with each other. And the problem is bad communication. And that's what I always stress, the need for better communication. And when I say communication, I mean even the common terminology we have, you know. We read the Bible and read about what the Jewish religion is or what the Christian religion is, and we don't know that the terminology in the Bible has grades of understanding, you know. And my understanding might be just on the elementary level. The bishops or the pope's understanding will be on the higher level, you see. Maybe the bishop will say, "Oh, that's no reason for justification for you all to be at odds with each other." But the man on the lower level, he'll see it as a justification for him to be at odds with the person who's outside of his faith, his immediate faith, you see. So I think there's a great need for communication. I think that there's a need to liberate people from the burden of language. I think that there is scriptural language not only in Muslim and Christian, but Muslim and Christian and Jewish society. There's scriptural language that carries the burden of ancient mythology. And for the modern mind, this is oppressive. It depresses us. It hurts you because you can't understand it. You can't communicate it rightly. I've heard people tell me they're ashamed to express the quote, their scripture, when they were asked to give an explanation for something. And they knew what the scripture said. They said, but they were ashamed to quote the scripture because it would make them look like a fool. Now, that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. It's just a problem of understanding. They need to understand it. When we understand the terminology, we need to understand the terminology. We can't limit the man of 1980 or 1981 as he was limited in 1481 or 881, you know. The people's language needs to be brought up to date. And as the mind expands, the mind has to be respected. The level of the mind has to be expected. And the American people, the modern world, has reached a level of communication that just doesn't justify us anymore talking in mythology to people. We can't speak in the language of mythology.
One final question we'd like to ask. Using the media as a gauge, one could conclude that America is moving toward a race war with all of the violent attacks on African American people and the violent attacks upon the Atlanta children and the rise of the Ku Klux Klan, or what appears to be an upsurge of the Ku Klux Klan and a resurgence of the Nazi Party. One could also conclude from the media that the American economy is about to collapse. What do you see as the major problems confronting the American people, and how do you feel those problems can be solved?
Yes. The major problem confronting the American people is the same problem that confronts us: education, need for more education, and economic education. Uh, when you're suffering financially or economically, it can kind of overflow and run over into your spiritual life. And I've seen myself people who seem to be fairly healthy spiritually and suddenly become a spiritual monster. And it was because the agonies of the physical circumstances kind of backrolled into their spiritual life. Um, I think the problem for us is to raise the level of education, economic education, number one. People shouldn't think that because they're citizens, that they are entitled to be fed, clothed, and everything with no effort on their own part to earn their living. I think the welfare mentality is one of the worst problems that we have. But at the same time, there are those who, because of their frustration, there are those who had high image of the American people and what it could do, what this country could do, you know, the super country. And they are disappointed now. Those people have been disillusioned. And some of those people don't understand their disillusionment. So what they do is take out their frustration on other people. And I believe that a lot of this clamor now over Klan activity and young European Americans wanting to get into the Klan, become part of Klan activity. And I think it's frustration. Frustration. They're frustrated. A lot of us are frustrated. There are a few old, hardcore demons, you know, but most of the people are not like that. Most of the people, even in the Klan, majority of them are not like that. I think they're people who just can't see how to handle their own frustration. They've been disappointed with their country. And what they should do is themselves seek a way to raise the level of their own intellect so that they can become more effective from an intellectual fortification rather than from this emotional thing.
What about the Atlanta situation? Comment briefly on that.
I've been worried and concerned very much ever since the news of that came to us, and I just suspected, since there were so many murders just following each other, I suspected that there was a deranged person behind it, who perhaps was trying to express something that he himself doesn't understand well enough to articulate it, but nevertheless it's bothering him, it's bothering his soul. I thought that it was someone trying to tell us that we need to do more for our children, that we need to accept parental responsibility. You know, that's what I thought. There was some, and this was just a notion or suspicion on my part. I suspected that someone was trying to give a message. And usually, in these odd kind of weird kind of killings, there is someone who's sick and who wants to express himself, someone who wants to throw out a burden on the society. You know, he wants to tell the society what his burden in his heart and soul, and then he can't find a way to express it intelligently or to express it in the normal avenues. So he goes and does something to create alarm, to get local or national attention, and through the design of his crime or criminal act, he's communicating his frustration to the society. And I thought perhaps there might have been that kind of deranged person or mentally oppressed person behind those killings. But I learned now that the reports are saying that they think that there are several killers, not one. But still, that could be the case for a number of those killings. I think because Atlanta now it's in the national spotlight, more is coming out than really is related to the original issue. Uh, for example, if they would spotlight in on Chicago, on Milwaukee, or any city, and would be very much active to investigate every crime, every killing, we would have a lot of confusion coming out of any of these cities. You see? Yeah.
God alone, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. Dear beloved people, I want to read from Quran just a verse that guides us to the proper understanding of ourself and how it is ourself that challenges us. لن تنالوا البر حتى تنفقوا مما تحبون. In English translation, this verse reads, by no means shall you attain righteousness unless you give freely of that which you love. Here is an eye-opener to aid us along the path of personal struggle against the opposition that comes to us from our own selves. You will not attain righteousness before giving up of the things you love. Again, the Most High says, it is not their eyes that are blind, but the hearts that are in their breasts. The Prophet said, peace be on him, the best jihad is Hajj, the Hajj. How are we to understand that? The best jihad is the Hajj, or the best jihad is the Hajj. How are we to understand that? What is Hajj? Hajj is one of the five basic obligations in our religion. We are obligated to pray to Allah. We are obligated to fast the month of Ramadan. We are obligated to be charitable. We are obligated to make Hajj. And the first of the obligations is to testify to the existence of one Allah only, and to the fact that He missioned a mortal human being to be a messenger to the world. Hajj, then, is a personal obligation on believers who are able to carry out that responsibility. That is, who are in health to do it, who have means to do it, they're obligated to do it. At least once in their lifetime. Muslims like to have to their credit that they have made several Hajjs. But the obligation is only one in the lifetime of a person. Recalling the saying of our prophet, then we should understand that Hajj is a struggle against the rebellion in ourselves. We may describe it in many ways, but I'm talking about the essential nature of the Hajj and significance of the Hajj. It is essentially a struggle taken on by the individual to carry out hard tasks, so to speak, against the desire in his own makeup to give that away, or to put that aside. When the Muslim makes Hajj, he most likely leaves all of his cherished possessions behind him. He leaves his home, his family, his wealth, and he goes out to make the pilgrimage of the Hajj. When he arrived there, he expects no conveniences. He expects hardship. He expects no privacy. He expects to live in a community setting with people from all over the world, small and great, rich and poor, wise and ignorant, cultured and uncultured. The worst and the best meet there. It gives us a good picture of what the world is that we belong to. It let us see the state of our world. And it puts us right in the midst, right in the thick of what is existing in and on all of us. And you have to give up your privacy. See, when a man is at home, if he doesn't like a situation, he can walk away from it. Maybe your victory wasn't my victory, but everyone who makes the Hajj with an ounce of sense in their head comes back victoriously. Why? Because you have been thrown helplessly into a challenge with yourself. And the outcome is always appreciated. Though it might not satisfy you completely, the outcome is appreciated. Because you know that you managed to advance your ability to handle your own self doing that Hajj. Now, isn't that what we need in this world? God said that he created us in the most excellent design. The human being is no cheap creation. The human being is an excellent creation. As much as the science and scientists know about the human being now, it still amazes them when they meditate or reflect on the great machinery we call the human person. Its biology, its psychological makeup, his emotional makeup. All of this really marvels the men of science, bring wonder to their minds, even after they have accumulated so many volumes of scientific data after observing this wondrous machine that God created. So we are talking about a wonderful thing. We are talking about the best model for a creature in creation. Who are we talking about? You, man. You. Yes, you, sister. So I heard the imam say last week, said, nobody is really poor who's aware of the blessings of Allah in them, who have faith and is aware of the blessing of Allah in them. The Imam said, none of those people can be poor. And that's true, they are rich. That's how come they can be thrown in the same situation with the non-faithful people. And in a few months, a few years, the non-faithful are marching to the head shrinker. And the faithful are still carrying on like ain't no trouble came into their lives. Yes. This is one of those days when I just feel very good inside. And when I feel this way, I'm inclined to talk very slow. See, a thing at peace is a thing in order. A thing out of peace is a thing out of order. Sometimes this world has us so jittery, so upset, that we just want to release. We want to give out. We want to throw out the burden that's on us. And then there are times when we're very much settled within ourselves, peaceful and well-contained. And we don't care to just rant and rave. We just want to have a sober conversation. Well, that's good too, isn't it? Praise be to Allah. Now, let's read the Quran. Where God says, O children of Adam, we have bestowed raiment upon you to cover your shame, as well as to be an adornment to you. But the raiment of righteousness, that is the best. Such are among the signs of Allah, that they may receive admonition. O you children of Adam, let not Satan seduce you in the same manner as he got your parents out of the garden, stripping them of their raiment to expose their shame. For he and his tribe watch you from a position where you cannot see them. We made the evil ones friends only to those without faith. And Allah says again in His Quran that Satan has no power over you. He only invites, and you answer his invitation. But he has no power over you. The limit of his power is to invite. Then you wrong yourself by answering his invitation. How can we manage? Is there some exercise that I can do to improve my ability to resist Satan? Yes, remember Allah. The remembrance of Allah is the greatest power on earth. And that is the word of God. And it was written a long time ago. All right? Yes. We want to know how we're going to survive in this world that is giving itself more and more to corruption, to blind self-destruction. We are going to survive with the guidance and help of Allah. And those who refuse his guidance and disrespect his help, they are doomed already. Yes. And this is no new thing. This has been the way of the world since it was made. Praise be to Allah. Dear beloved people, this is salvation. What I'm talking about, this membership in Al-Islam, this is salvation. There are degrees of dignity, degrees of knowledge, and we all represent some place in the scale. But the worst off of us is saved. The worst of us is saved if they keep in the membership of this community. For this community itself is salvation. How is it salvation? It's salvation because it is a unique entity. It is salvation because it is itself. It's salvation because it has its own distinct makeup. If the boat is good for getting across the water, the no good person on the boat has a good chance of getting across the water. This is better than a boat. This moves on land too. Can get up and go in all four directions. Move like the mothership. Stop and back up. Is not bothered by friction or inertia. Be traveling at 1 billion miles per second and stop suddenly. Jet out in the other direction. Without stripping a gear. This is better than a boat. This is good. it good? It's good to be with people that share your life and your hopes or aspirations. Why, that itself is a paradise. Yes. You will not attain righteousness until you give up what you love. Haven't we said very often to remind ourselves that a man lives and dies because of the state of his own heart? And if we can put our heart in the right state, we have salvation. And until we can manage to be true within our heart, there's no hope for us. How do I know? Because Allah has said He does not change the state of a person or people until they first change the state of their hearts. So Allah is not going to make a life pleasant for you until you first take the right disposition in your own heart. And why should He? It's not justice. You have not really, truthfully identified yourself. And you're asking for something. So, well, who is that? So, I got to know who to give it to. You're asking for something. You haven't truly identified yourself. Identify yourself. I'm a sinner, Lord. I'm a liar, Lord. I'm a weakling, Lord. I follow lust. I give in to fears that is not the fear of you. Then the Lord say, I know. Not another one in creation spoke like that. Maybe they spoke, but each individual sends off his own individual vibrations. And my story is different from yours, though they look very much alike to the eyes of the spectators. I know my story is not yours. All right? Yes, because I'm a creature of sensation, a creature of sensitivities. And we just don't register the same. No two people are the same. So when I confess to God and pour out the sentiments of my heart to God and confess my life before God, then I have a chance to be helped. But as long as I'm denying the fact of my own shortcomings and trying to put myself off as something that I am not, I don't have no chance with God. I have to first be truthful with God, then God will come to my aid. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be George Washington, who never told a lie. I don't have to be an angel. I can be a big sinner with a cross of sin as big as the earth. And according to the words of this sacred book, God will forgive me. In fact, in this religion, we are told that every time the Muslim, the believer, offer before Allah sincere repentance, the sins behind him are gone. And he is accountable from that point for no more than what he will do at that point or after. Sometimes we think we know the goodness of God. Believe me, we don't. We just know a little bit of the goodness of Allah. He is so good until if you really could see him in his goodness, it will make you speechless. You won't be able to contain yourself. That's right. Now, listen at that. Here I am, a man in my religion who has lied, who has done wrong or injustice to other people. And I turn to God with a sincere heart. And I repent with pure sincerity. God then wipe out everything I did behind me. And it's from that point on that I will be judged for my wrong. Haven't we been told many times that once you declare yourself a Muslim, everything you did before that time is behind you and you are not charged with it? Why? Because the time prior to that conversion, you were not in a good situation to really be accountable for your actions. When you understood the message of Islam and was converted to it, or maybe you didn't understand it, but something reached your soul and you understood in the depths of your being that this was right for you and that you had an obligation to declare yourself before us and before God as a Muslim. At that time, your heart took a courageous stand. At that time, your heart, if not your intellect, your heart took a courageous stand. And God rewarded you for the deed of your heart with the blotting out of all the charges in your past. And no one had to submerge you in the water. No one had to sprinkle you down. You were submerged into your heart by something convincing that came from God. So you were submerged in your heart and you gave up. So I ain't gonna fight no more. Allah, I want to be with you. Allah, I want to be on the side of the righteous. I think today I'm going to get rid of this shyness of mine. I'm going to tell the Imam I want to come up and declare my faith. And they walk up. Sometimes they walk up like they're carrying 1,000,000 pounds on their shoulders. Then sometimes they come forward like they've been locked up for 1,000,000 years and the door was just open. Yes, sometimes they come up here like they broke out of jail. Then sometimes they come up like they're carrying 1,000,000-pound load on their backs. But most of them, when they get there, they have the courage. I've seen some break down in tears, sobbing while they were sad. They say, no Allah but one Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. You know, Prophet Muhammad used to require, especially of women, we know this to be recorded, that when they came to declare themselves to be Muslims, he would also give them the pledge that they would not give themselves to past wickedness, past corruption. And many were invited to testify that Jesus is the prophet of God and one of his righteous servants. Though we are not asked to do that, knowing that we are from Christian experience, Christian ideas, we should at least in our hearts say to Allah, I bear witness that Jesus was prophet and one of your righteous servants. Yes, that's what we should do. Self-accountability. Knowing that we are accountable before our Creator, who sees and knows everything, and who has power to do whatsoever He wills. Accountability, self, and to our Creator. Our Creator has held us accountable for our own personal management. Isn't it wonderful that Allah has created a creature that He has given more dignity to than He gave to any other creature? Do you think the sparrow, the lion, the snake, the dog, the fish, do you think these creatures are accountable for their life? Do you think they are accountable for the management of their lives? No. God has kept charge over their life. They sleep intelligently. They awake intelligently. They live intelligently. Show me an animal that's a fool. Yes. And I'll show you an animal that you've been messing with. Yes. Animals no fool. Big bad dog rushed up to my cat. And my cat just sat down. Just a quiet, like that big bad dog came to put on a show for her. She just sat down just a quiet, and when he saw her, he rushed up there, but when he saw her sit down so quietly, he stopped in his tracks. Stopped just like a charging bull with front brakes. Yeah, his front paws stuck out stiff just like that. And he looked at the cat, and he started approaching a little bit, and he stopped, and the hair began to rise up behind his neck. Something was deep on his mind. And he made a few short steps backwards and forwards to see would she get up. And she didn't. He walked on away. But looked like to me, it took him, looked like 5 minutes for that hair to go down on his back of his neck. He was upset for a long time. That was an intelligent dog. But we have been given the freedom to violate the natural rules of intelligence that God gave us from birth. Yes. And we sometimes know we're violating the rules of natural intelligence. And we even know that we're going to get bad consequences. since the consequences are not as close to us as the thing that we are hungry for, mouth is watering right now. You're hungry. We take the chance. We go on and we grab it. But if the consequences was as quick as the burn that we get from sticking the hand in the fire, most of us would be saints. But since with the consequences are sometimes so far into the future, we take that chance. It's not pressing on us, you see, what's going to be the consequences. It's not really demanding at that moment. Pay up. So you know how it is. You pay later. Pretty soon you got a debt so bad, you wish you had managed your life better. Boy, I wish I had started out with this sense I got now a little earlier. Yes, he has dignified us by giving us charge of ourselves. Allah says in this Quran that he made Adam a Khalifa. What is a Khalifa? Ruler in the earth. Custodian for God in the creation. One with the potential to look out after the welfare of not only himself, but the created things that God has made. One who is capable, who have the potential to be the keeper, the watchman, and the superintendent or the supervisor in the creation. One with the potential to go and explore the mysteries of his environment. Bring out the hidden thing and be an instrument for improving upon that Allah made. Not as an independent, as a servant of his God. As a Khalifa. Do you know what Khalifa means? It comes from the word which means behind. Not in front, behind. So God made the man to do what? Come behind. God created the world and rested the world. Rested the world in what sense? He rested it in the evolution, the process of evolution. He evolved the world and rested its evolution. Arrested its growth. You will not acquainted with this kind of language. You will understand everything grows to its fullness and then rests. We find that some things grow to their fullness and they get a new life. New challenge to their survival, bring out powers for adaptation. And they began to come into a new life to suit the new challenge. Science tells us that the frog once was always a little fish-like thing. But by him being forced to come out of the water, he developed the nature to metamorphose, to be transformed. So the frog is transformed in his development from a fish-like thing, they call it what they call that thing? Tadpole, into a frog. Now, you know, if you didn't know this, you had never seen or heard of this, and you still had your same mind the world gave you. And if the man would stand up here and show you a fish-looking thing and a frog, and tell you this thing is this thing, you can't fool me. I never buy that lie. Because that is a miraculous thing. That is a very marvelous thing. That a fish-like thing have become a walking thing on the land. Yes. Isn't it wonderful that Allah left the pattern? What you call it when you steal the picture? He started the animation and looked like he said, still there, be static, be static. I want to hold you in that pose so my later creature can observe you. Don't you know all the creatures evolved from simpler forms to more complex or more excellent forms? But Allah didn't leave behind all the creatures the evidence of their transformation. But for certain creatures, he left evidence of their transformation. We can observe it in our own lifetime. We don't have to wait for the clock of evolution. We don't have to go back and turn the film and recall all that took place over those millions of years. We have I don't know what they call that, but it's just captured right there. It's a still picture. A still picture set in time where we can take a look and see the wonders of our Creator. Yes. Now, dear beloved people, we are told that everything in creation is a sign of Allah, a sign of Allah's knowledge, a sign of Allah's plan, a sign of what Allah is doing in you. You a fish too. Allah says in the Quran, and He began everything out of water. Didn't say except the man. Oh yes. He began everything out of water. Now, dear beloved people, so we must understand that we at one time were a more simple creature. A more simple creature. Now, let us come to the wisdom of the nations. The creature is susceptible to the influences in his life, and he is exposed to those influences that will take him backwards into time. We can go backwards into time to improve the present, and we can go backwards into time blindly and lose the present. Yes. What am I talking about? I'm talking about your genetic makeup. The shrinker, he sits you down. No telling what he does today. Because most of them have become perverts. So he might ask you to allow him to intercourse your mind. May I intercourse your mind? Will you submit to an intercourse of your mind? And you say, I'm brave, go on. Go on, baby. That's if you're a victim of this world. Now, dear beloved people, it is scientifically proven that the past is clocked into the present. The past and the present live together in your genetic makeup. That's why the head shrinker can put you under hypnosis and tell you to think backwards. And you think yourself all the way back into childhood, all the way back into infancy, all the way back into the womb that bore you. This is no joke. This is actual facts. For those who are familiar with the Christian terminology and that religion, I am he who was before the world was. Now, we know that can be put in different contexts, but let's look at it in a scientific context where it is true. What is the world? This order as we understand it, this history of man as we know it, that's the world. Now, if I would speak to you today, right this moment, and tell you, I am before the world was, you would think I'm crazy. So that man is weird. He's a nut, a spiritual widow. And you might be criticizing a wise scientist who can prove scientifically what he's saying. How come I'm not before the world was? This body that you see here, where did it come from? So it came from Elijah and Clara. That's right. And where did it come from before it got into Elijah and Clara? Oh, yes, it came from William and Marie. And where did it come from before it got into William and Marie? Now you are on to what we are talking about. We're going to be in a place where the world was not. Or when the world was not. Is that true? Yes. Then you say, but how is that you? Don't I resemble my father? Don't I resemble his father? Well, then that tells you that I came from way back there. Yes, that tells you that biologically speaking, I came from way back there. I resemble my father, I resemble my mother, I resemble his parents, I resemble her parents. So that's proof that I might resemble Adam. How sweet it is. Yes. Yes. So by reasoning with our intelligence, we come to the conclusion that that thing doesn't stop until it goes back to Adam, who's called our father in this little hour. So my father's genes are in me. He's my father. His genes are in me. Adam's genes are in me. Oh, yes. Then if Adam's genes in me, let us go beyond Adam now. Where did that come from? From Adam. Says Allah created him from dust. Says Allah created him from clay. Allah created him from water and breathed into him of his spirit, and he became a living soul. So genetically speaking, my existence goes back when there was no man, was no woman, was no fowl, no fish, no creature. Oh, I don't believe that. That's too much. And you saw alternate states and didn't say that was too much. You came back trying to explain it to other people. That was one of those weird science fiction movies, alternate states. Yeah. See how he went back? Yeah. Yes. You see what the movie writer is trying to tell you? Not to go back? Go forward? You don't want to go back to what God brought you from? You want to go forward to what God is leading you to? So if I go backwards, I'm going to find that tadpole. And pretty soon I'm going to find the clay and the dust and the water, needing the breath of life. Right? Yeah, you see, you got tricked. You thought I was going back to divinity. No, you go back to simple creation. Allah made us from the simplest creation and then guided us with his law into this excellence that we're in now. We used to have the idea too that the past is greater than the present. Say, who am I? I am the original man, the Asiatic black man. Didn't want no problems. Don't say African black man. That's a big problem. Because we already have a preconceived idea of the inferiority of the African people. So we couldn't make no testimony like that. We say, I am the original man, Asiatic black man, owner, maker, cream of the planted earth, father of civilization and God of the universe. We used to say, before the stars were, I am. Me and my father hung the sun and the moon and decorated the canopy with stars. We used to say that. Yes. And not only Elijah Muhammad, he wanted to find really some clarity. He was looking for a crystal clear picture of that. And the best he could do before he passed was that long before all of this was made, you were an atom in darkness. Black carbon atom in darkness. And you just had a desire. And your desire caused that atom to start rotating on its own axis. And it spit itself into light and into worlds. That's what he sees. Now, you might say the man lied. From your point of view, he lied. From my point of view, he told the truth. How is that possible? If I clock my genetic being to the first man and then to the material world that God created before life was created, shouldn't I keep on clocking it back? So if I keep going back, I find the beginning of this creation. Knowledge of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The thing that's wrong with it, it does not have a connection with the truth or with the reality as we know it. That's all that's wrong with it. We know that the world was set on its own movement, velocity, inertia, whatever you want to call it. The world was set upon its own. It was created and given to its own force. Is that right? Its own force. The nature and the force in which it was created began to operate to force the creation to growth and to completion. Is this not a fact of creation? Yes. For the material bodies, by following the laws of their nature, compelled by the laws of their natures, have evolved to what it is today. Is that right? All right. Okay, so if I speak of my own essence, shouldn't I also realize that my own essence was in that? And my own essence too evolved under the force of the law of its own form and nature? Yes, certainly. It had a creator, but the creator put it under itself. Or under the law and nature of itself. Yes. Now, dear people, if we can understand that, then we should see this creation as a unit. The creation is one unit. And Allah says in the Quran, can't they see that this creation was one unit before it was separated? One unit, one whole. Our life is not foreign to the tree, to the animal, to the minerals of the earth, to the elements of the space. Our life is akin to that, part of that, belonging to that unity. The elements in your being, aren't they the elements of the creation? The calcium, the phosphorus, the iron, whatever. Isn't it the same as that in the creation? If we reduce it down, won't it be exactly what we find in the creation? Now, dear beloved people, here is a great knowledge. The greater challenge the matter has had to face, the greater ability the matter has. And if we could really think this big way, deep way, clearly, then we would understand how we are the best of the creatures Allah created. But at the same time, the worst. What makes us the worst? The drunken use of the human potential. If you use your potential sanely, intelligently, soberly, you'll be the best. But if you use it blindly, silly, crazy-headed, you will be the worst. The most powerful vehicle is capable of traveling the best, the fastest, the farthest. But it is also capable of having the worst accident. Right? Yes. So potential is potential. And if it's a potential for greatness, it's also a potential for great destruction. Yes. So this explains, we should understand ourselves. We should understand ourselves in the scheme of the reality we call the creation. We should understand ourselves in that scheme and come to accept our great dignity. And once we know that, the truth will set us free. Free from what? Free from fear to do what is right. Free from the fear of the world. before the call to do what is right, free from worry, free from fantasy, free from superstition, spookism, free from blind appetites of destruction. We will have freedom from that. Why? Because we will have a force operating on our behalf of our own selves. That will be the strongest motivation possible for us. What is the problem for those who are charged with advancing society, preserving and advancing society? The greatest problem for them is management of human life. They say if we manage human life with respect for its innate or inborn dignity, it will get out of our hands. Man is not trustworthy, so we can't allow him the freedom his creation deserves. So they have long ago decided that they have to manage you through your genetic machinery. That they have to manage your life through the principle or the theory of your genetic behavior. That's their decision. The result is you, as a majority of people, are slaves to the influence of the environment. Your life is not charted on a course with you being the captain of the ship. Your life is subject to the changes in the scheme of the influences of this society. Is that true? So a whole mass of people, a whole neighborhood of people, whole South Chicago are up on the board of some programs. And they are saying where you will be 5 years from now. They are saying what your emotional mode will be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now. They're saying where your mentality will be in the future. Because they don't trust you with the dignity, the freedom that Allah gave you. All right? What are we getting at? Salvation. Salvation has come. Yes, salvation has come. The proof that salvation has come is the fact that I speak the way I speak and nobody can challenge me. Salvation has come. Oh, yes. The mothership is mine. I'm chief captain at the wheels. Oh, yes. What I'm talking about? I'm talking about the mothership of my own essence. The ship of my own life. That's what I'm talking about. Has been brought into my control. So it's salvation time. I don't have to wait to see if it's going to be winter, or summer, or fall, or spring. I got my own chart and my own program. I say next year will be winter on the 21st of the month. 1 o'clock sharp. And whenever I want to call spring or summer, I just call it. And that's what it's going to be. Because I am the Khalifa. I ain't under no Khalifa anymore. I am the Khalifa. Haven't you been told that a very precious idea in America is the sacredness of the individual person? The autonomy of the individual? What does that idea mean? It means Khalifa. Americans just say it in different words. The autonomy of the individual means Khalifa. Means that a person should be accountable to himself for his own behavior, for his own well-being, for his own future. He should be able to take into his hand the forces of his own circumstances and with faith in God, chart his own course, chart his own future, make his life in the mold pleasing to God. Yes, he should be able to do that. But we are not able in America to take control of the circumstances that we are in. We are not able to even get decent representation as retail grocery store people. We don't even have a fair share of the retail grocery business in our neighborhoods. We don't have a decent share of the institutions. In fact, we have no share of the institutions. The hospitals, the colleges, the universities, the institutions of culture, the libraries, all of those things are in people's charge that are not us. We are riders. We are passengers. We are ticket bearers. The captain is somebody else. And now for the first time, a community has come to mushroom, evolved to its senses, has grown up into itself, and has seen itself and say, I like you. Long time since we saw each other. I had forgot even how you looked. And they told me a lot of lies about you. They said you were unattractive. They said you were inferior. They said you were black and ugly. Oh, how beautiful you are. Sweetheart, let us not part again. Yes, but not the blackness of the skin, the blackness of my originality that had no knowledge to express until God freed my intellect. And then my intellect reached into the darkness of my being of the past and began to speak, and it was wonderful. Woo, baby, it was wonderful. Yes. Does the tree speak? Can the rivers talk? Can the birds speak to us? No, except as signs from Allah. They can't speak. But my mind has been free. I have a free conscience. I have a rational mind. My intellect speaks. Speech is the peculiarity of the human creature. The other creatures, they have their language, but their communication is signal. Our communication is both signal and rational. That's why we even alter our language. The bird speaks today like he did when he was made. He can't alter his language. But our speech changes. We improve upon our speech. We improve upon our language. You see? So, dear beloved people, we are able to express with intelligence that was hidden in the dark of our genetic essence. And when we are able to express that, we are wise. And no one can get that knowledge except from God. You either get it as a blessing or you get it as a robber. Those who get it and abuse it are robbers. They stole it because they're not using it for the purpose designed for it. You see? Now, dear beloved people, let us go on with this. For the first time in the history of the African descendants, we have salvation. Salvation that is not only seen in faith, but it's seen also in knowledge. For when a people have knowledge, their conditions can be improved greatly. We can be saved and not yet be restored. For the mere expression of true faith will save me. But what will restore me? Knowledge. Knowledge. Dear beloved people, your community is blessed with the knowledge to steer itself, to direct its own course, to live in its own orbit, to enjoy self-containment. This is a